Before anyone starts making declarations of going 100% CTV in 2024, I think it's wise to lean on research and data to guide investment decisions. Once you understand that, from there, you can understand where these people are watching and start to finalize that investment split.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Hingle. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, our CEO, and Rob DeMars, our Chief Product Architect.
Howdy.
Hello. And we're joined by Catherine Walstad, our VP of Media at Marketing Architects.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
The Queen of Stream.
The Queen of Stream. Thank you for joining us today, Catherine. We're back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. Today, we're talking about the channel that is predicted to be the leader in advertising spend growth in 2024. That would be streaming TV, otherwise known as connected TV or CTV. And we are a TV agency, so you can imagine how excited we were when we saw data from the IAB's 2024 outlook showing CTV or streaming TV will have the largest percentage increase in ad spend in 2024 at 14.5%. Streaming is followed by social at 11.4%, paid search at 10.1%, and what do you know, it's podcasts at 9.6%. And we, Marketing Architects, also did some research on our own on ad spending in 2024, and we did find similar results. In our survey of 300 marketers, CTV led the way in investment increases, followed by social, and then digital video. So it's clear CTV has exploded in recent years, and eMarketer recently released a TV and connected TV ad spending forecast. It had some interesting stats to support CTV's growth. And first off, TV ad spending overall will grow in 2024 to $61.74 billion. In 2023, CTV spending topped $25 billion, which is almost 9 times the $2.8 billion spent in 2017. In this report, eMarketer compared CTV and linear, pointing out how different CTV viewers are from linears. The biggest users of CTV are millennials, followed by Gen Z, Gen X, and baby boomers, while the biggest users of linear TV are boomers, followed by Gen X, millennials, and Gen Z. Linear TV ad spending still dwarfs CTVs and will continue to be a larger portion of marketers' spend through at least 2027. In 2024, $62 billion is projected to be spent on linear, and time spent on linear and CTV is inching closer together, but linear still leads the way at a predicted 2 hours and 48 minutes spent by U.S. adults with linear TV in a day in 2024, compared to 2 hours and 3 minutes spent on streaming. The end of the report really summarizes what I think is a common viewpoint surrounding CTV, and I'll just quote directly from the report. We have seen the future of TV, and it is CTV. Not only is CTV the logical continuation of TV, but it carries mostly the same content and the same ads. They just happen to be delivered via the internet instead of cable, satellite, telecom, or over-the-air signals. And I thought it'd be helpful to kick off this episode with some cold hard stats, because as a TV agency ourselves, we're all too familiar with how the rise of CTV has been misinterpreted, at times overhyped, and has led to some frustration for marketers who were promised this new and improved version of TV with better audience targeting, inventory, and measurement tools, only to be sometimes a bit disappointed. So since streaming is a channel that is both exciting and complex, we brought on Catherine, our TV media buying subject matter expert. She has extensive experience leading media teams and developing TV media buying software for our agency. And she's going to do some streaming myth busting with us today and break down how marketers should think about investing in the most popular marketing channel of 2024. So Catherine, thank you again for joining us today. I wanted to start off by asking, what's it been like for you working in the heart of TV media buying these last few years when you're really at the center of so much change?
Yeah, I mean, these have been some of the most challenging and energizing years I've had in media in the last decade. We've seen this seismic shift driven primarily by CTV. Of course, viewing habits have changed at a much more accelerated pace than we expected. And the industry has never been more tech and data enabled, which us nerds have been dying for. And you guys know me, I'm always up for a good time. I am having the most fun I've ever had in media. But it's not without drama, right? There are issues with lack of standardization and currency and measurement. Privacy regulation is keeping everybody up at night. These challenges can certainly cause some serious heartburn. They also represent this sea of opportunity that I can't help but get excited about. Elena, you just mentioned a quote from one of the reports that the future of TV is CTV. It's got the same content, it has the same ads, it's viewed the same way television is in the living room. And we've held this belief for years, and we're counting down the days to when linear versus CTV simply becomes video. And we're not talking about the death of linear anymore. I'm really loving being at the forefront of the evolution and working at an agency like MA that says, hey, challenge accepted. It makes the learning and the adapting and innovating that we've had to do over the last several years a lot less scarier and a lot more fun.
Wouldn't it be nice if we never had to hear the line, is linear TV dead, ever again?
Yes. I mean, we're going to see it sometime in the next 2 weeks. There will be that headline.
I'd say that's a good prediction. Well, Catherine, you mentioned drama, so let's start some drama ourselves on this podcast. I want to do some myth busting. And I believe the stats I shared earlier, they already did a little bit of myth busting when it comes to viewership by showing how many people are still watching linear TV. So let's skip that one and go right into targeting. Streaming TV, it solved all of linear TV's traditional targeting challenges, right?
Hell yeah. Check. Targeting challenge is solved. Linear should just pack it up, step aside, right? No, yeah. Streaming has certainly made strides in targeting. There's no denying that. It's promised the kind of audience targeting that can frankly creep people out to a certain extent, but it increase ad effectiveness and lead to better investment decisions and ROI. But like they say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that's kind of what we're seeing is these challenges. One, with accuracy, you've got publishers and platforms self-reporting data, outdated information. People are sharing accounts. There's dual viewing going on, all causing people to pay a premium to potentially reach the wrong audience. And I think we've all heard the horror story of, big advertisers running streaming campaigns that are meant to reach business decision makers that ran largely to the unemployed audience. It's like, yikes. I mean, what a waste. We're also seeing challenges with scale and pricing. The more you target, the fewer people you're going to reach and the more it's going to cost. And so while we've seen significant advancement with targeting and it sounds really cool, we don't yet have a complete solution. And this can really make life hard for everybody. I think it's made it hard for us. It's made it hard for our clients and any marketer out there that's looking to get into streaming.
Do you guys watch Mythbusters? Like they always come with their
Oh, yeah.
plausible or probable. Like this is one that I would say is plausible, questionably plausible, I would say. I think that the world waited for CTV to solve all of television's problems. And sometimes you build something up in your head and you don't even have to be convinced that it's true. You've been waiting for it for so long. It's like a kid on Christmas. And I think that's a lot of what happened related to targeting and CTV. And to your point, it is plausible, but with a lot of stipulations. It almost requires you to walk into the space with a mindset of, I need to assume that my targeting is wrong, just because, especially in CTV, we're dealing with a screen on the wall. And so it's no different than linear in that there are multiple people in the room. And so if we're going to go pay exorbitant costs to try to target or hyper target someone, we have to remember that we are still dealing with a screen on the wall. So yeah, there are some complexities, there are some opportunity too, but it does require a marketer to kind of sort through that and figure that out versus just assume that targeting data is accurate and is going to be worth the cost to acquire it.
So speaking of cost, another big statement around CTV has been that it's this new performance marketing channel. But how has the pricing of CTV made that performance difficult?
It's no secret that streaming CPMs are significantly higher than what's available in linear. And there are a few reasons for that. I mean, there's limited inventory, or more limited inventory, I should say, than some other channels. So there's that. Also, it's really popular. There's a lot of demand for it, and there just isn't as much of it. And so it's got this premium price tag. We're starting to see that diminish a little bit as content becomes more accessible. You've got more players coming into the space. We're seeing this a little bit with the growth of fast channels. When you have more choice, that's going to place some market pressure on things, and that should eventually drive costs down. Secondly, the fees. And this one just really gets me. It's like the fees upon the fees upon the fees. There are tech fees, that you've got SSP fees, ad exchange fees, ad serving fees, reporting fees, measurement fees. I mean, the list of fees just kind of goes on and on. And each one of those fees drives up cost and consequently can drive down ROI. So I know we just covered targeting. That's another thing that drives up cost. The more narrow you target, or the cuter, I like to say, you get with targeting, the more you're going to pay. And the high prices then make it harder for a performance marketer to see success. It's a simple problem of cost with a complex solution. These high prices just really make performance challenging for advertisers.
It seems almost ironic in some ways that a channel that offers so much of the things that a performance marketer would want sort of fails on the side of delivering it at a cost that performance marketers want. Like, it has all the cool tools, but the cost makes it, more prohibitive.
We think it has all the cool tools, but another sort of streaming TV myth is measurement. And that's another one of the most exciting parts of streaming. It's, we're finally going to be able to measure it like digital. But Catherine, why is measuring CTV challenging too?
Okay, I'm going to take a minute here, because what TV person doesn't love to rag on old school TV measurement? But you have to admit, it is beautifully simplistic. You've got one currency, mostly one company measuring and reporting it. So it's got this uniformity, this well-established framework. It's universally accepted by the industry, buyers and sellers. And then in comes CTV, and it's like, wild, wild west. You've got multiple currencies, no standardization, no universally accepted numbers, metrics, or measurement. I mean, we don't even really know who is actually watching and responding sometimes. It was all sounding so cool. Yeah, make it more like digital. But we've got publishers and platforms that are grading their own homework. No one can agree who is right. And so I just laugh, because it's like, no wonder attribution is hard. And Matt has lost all his hair in the last couple of years. I don't know if you guys have seen him on a podcast recently, but our head of analytics is just pulling his hair out over this issue. And, it really comes down to needing to run multiple measurement models in parallel to gauge full impact. You can't just rely on one single number to tell you the success or failure of your campaign. With CTV, we were promised sophistication and accurate measurement, and it sounded great. But that sophistication, I think, also makes it kind of hard to do and hard to believe. And so we're left sometimes with just more questions than answers.
There's been adoption of that complexity. I mean, number one, you're dealing with an emerging space. And so you're just naturally going to have some of that as standardization gets worked out. But if you think about the digital environment, really no different, right? You've got walled gardens that you're dealing with, and you've got different attribution models. And so that is one sort of unfortunate jump over from the digital space, where it would have potentially been a little better to have that linear mindset to measurement. And you can apply that. That's essentially what we do, right? We've got IP attribution in place that's possible, that wasn't largely possible in linear. So go ahead and absolutely, look at that data, but you need to look at it with a scrutinous eye, as well as, to your point, Matt, our head of analytics, thinks CTV is even harder to measure than linear, which is a little confusing and a little unfortunate.
And even if, say, all of these myths we're covering were true, and CTV was truly becoming that performance channel today for us, a big barrier to testing TV is still creative production. That's a big difference between TV and digital. And we cover creative costs for our clients, but we're unique as an agency. Most brands have to pay an agency or pay to produce their own creative for CTV. So Rob, I know that this could quickly become a complex question, but could you offer just some quick advice for brands when they're producing creative specifically for CTV?
All I know is how to keep it simple, Elena, so I'll keep this simple. No, really, the beauty and the curse with streaming is you have a lot of flexibility and opportunity for testing. So to put that plainly, you can do a lot of stuff, but you need a lot of assets to do that stuff. So really, it's all about planning. How can you get together with the media team well before you start developing your creative concepts and really understand what options they might be looking for? So some of the things are maybe already planned, but what might they want to be doing around the corner? So you can think about that as you're developing your production, so they can have all these different assets to potentially be able to experiment with. So what are those types of things? Like, are they going to want to test contextually? Are they going to want to customize for local? Maybe they're going to want to do some, cutting edge interactive content that might require different types of video reactions based on where the customer wants to go. So just keeping all of these things in mind so you can really maximize that upcoming production by mapping out the strategy of your assets so that they have a war chest to draw from, and really be able to not have to go back after the fact and shoot more assets, because every time you do that, you have all those initial startup costs. So how do you really maximize that by staying in communication with the media team and where they may want to go?
So speaking of planning, because of all this excitement for CTV, a lot of brands, especially smaller brands, are 100% focused on testing CTV in 2024, and they might not even be considering linear. But Catherine, how would you advise brands think about investing in linear and or CTV?
Yeah, I think before anyone starts making declarations of going 100% CTV in 2024, I think it's wise to lean on research and data to guide investment decisions. That's what we do. We like to start by looking at viewing trends and cord studies to determine where and how an audience is consuming video. And we're often surprised sometimes looking at that data to learn that more of an audience is in linear than streaming or vice versa. And so once you understand that, from there, you can understand where these people are watching and start to finalize that investment split. And often we see it's an and versus an or for our clients and prospects. And, prioritizing your investments on where you can get in front of the most people at the lowest price is what we see to be really successful. My next piece of advice is around targeting. We've already spent some time on that. I'd say just use it wisely. More targeting does not necessarily translate to better ROI. And so it's really best off to just kind of test and learn and start small in the space before allocating a lot of budget toward really cute targeting strategies.
I have a random topic I just want to throw out there. Obviously, we know Netflix is now in the ad game, and therefore they have to do something they've never done before, which is release viewership data. And they just did that for January to June of 2023. And I thought it was super interesting for two reasons. One is, did you guys see the top 10 list of shows, of the most viewed shows? Because I was like, what in the world? Number one show on Netflix. I mean, this is Netflix. There's a lot of, and I'm a binge watcher of Netflix. And I feel like I've watched everything, and I've only watched like 3 of the shows in the top 10. So did you guys see what number 1 was? The Night Agent. The Night Agent, right, is the number 1 show. And number 2 was Ginny in Georgia. Never even heard of that one. I saw Wednesday was in there. I did really enjoy Wednesday. But anyways, the top 10 is amazing. I haven't heard of half these shows. But the other thing I thought was really interesting is the metric they report. So, and it makes sense given their channel, but they report on hours viewed, which is kind of like a whole new, consideration set for us data geeks. So anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Speaking of publishers like Netflix, Catherine, I think that when there's news about a new publisher offering ads like a Netflix or Disney, marketers get really excited. But when it comes to putting your ad on CTV, which publishers offer the most opportunity for marketers?
So I think it depends on how you define opportunity. So when I think of opportunity for marketers, to me, it means getting premium inventory across the entire landscape at the best price. And so, if using that as the definition of opportunity to answer this question, I'd say that we're better off thinking about leveraging technology to access inventory programmatically versus getting hung up on specific publishers like Hulu, Disney, or Netflix that Rob just mentioned. Those are great, premium publishers that have all kinds of inventory reaching lots of people. But when you buy directly from a publisher like that, it can be very pricey and inefficient. And we know that audiences are watching CTV across multiple platforms. I mean, that's a fact. So looking for ways to reach them where they are and as effectively as possible is a focus. And one way you can do this is to use a demand side platform or a DSP. A DSP will give you access to most, if not all, CTV inventory. And also on top of that, give you the ability to bid on that inventory at prices you know are going to perform for your brand. A nice little side benefit of that is it allows you to manage your campaign across all of those publishers in one place versus managing, individual campaigns with individual publishers, which really makes it slick and a nice automated way to manage a campaign.
What I love about what you brought up, Rob, related to the Netflix top list is that there's a lot of programming that exists that's highly viewed that we don't think of as the most popular television. And that exists in linear too, where we all hear about, the largest brands and maybe we do watch The Bachelor, Dancing with the Stars, this primetime programming, but it's the same thing where Netflix is providing the data related to their platform specifically. The same thing's going to happen on multiple other platforms across streaming television. And the fact of the matter is that we watch a lot of content other than the most high priced popular content that might be out there that people are talking about. And that's the opportunity, I think, with television and with driving reach at the right cost. To your point, Catherine, is we don't have to go to NFL football, even though it pulls a ton of audience. Of course it does. And in some cases, it might make sense to do that. But we don't have to go there in order to reach the people that watch NFL football. They watch a lot of other content as well. So linear or streaming, I think Netflix is illustrating the point that, Rob, you might be the right profile or demographic for the night agent. And yet you were like, wait, what? Like, it's not been I definitely want to put it at the top of my list. Okay. So there are people that are watching it. You're watching other content. So let's just find them the most efficiently.
So distribution with CTV can feel complicated. And that's not the only part of CTV that's complicated. Testing can be complicated. If I'm a marketer, I'm listening to this and I'm interested in CTV, there's a lot of different ways to test it. There's direct buys with publishers, there's self-serve platforms, and of course, there's also full service agencies like marketing architects. So, Ange, how would you recommend marketers go about testing CTV or adding it to their marketing mix this year?
Well, I think as with any channel, it's important to start with the objective, right? What are we trying to achieve? The channel for sure holds a lot of potential, but I think it's important to have the mission clear, as that will really chart the strategy within the channel. So are we trying to extend reach? Are we looking for brand awareness? Is this a lead gen play? Are we trying to lift direct sales? This is going to influence your choice of platform, the approach, potentially how you go about it. So, but going into a new test, we touched on this earlier, I think it's really important to go in with the mindset that likely the number one reason that your CTV test will fail is that the media was priced too high. CPM, we have found, is the number one predictor of success. The channel holds a ton of ability for unique targeting methods that are not possible in linear. And a lot of those methods leverage data that increases the cost of media substantially. And so as a general rule of thumb, if you're making linear television work at X CPM, you're going to need to be in the range of potentially 2X to make CTV work. You are going to pick up some responsiveness, and this is for performance marketers out there, right? But this is why we built our Annika streaming platform to disrupt that traditional cost structure of CTV and allow marketers access to a channel, a very powerful channel that has the ability to be super impactful, but only sort of at the right cost. When you're going into the channel, start with a pilot, right? Test CTV with a smaller budget to understand the impact on the marketing mix. Many are fascinated with those targeting abilities of the space, but I think it's important to try a mix. It's fine to try some of that targeting that you might be intrigued by or your team might be intrigued by, but also to try to lower costs, try some broad targeting as well. And then we're just in the game of using tracking and analytics to measure performance, optimize based on those data-driven insights. Performance marketers should be on the lookout for measurements of incrementality. Back to the point we made earlier, CTV is sort of both a blessing and a curse related to IP-based attribution, as the insight is remarkable. And yet, of course, CTV is not the only marketing that we receive in our homes, tied to our router IP address. Additionally, device graphs are often used to understand the broader impacts of a channel like CTV, which can create a likelihood of over-attribution. So it's just really important to have controls in place to achieve a view of incremental views or sales. And I think lastly, every brand and situation, of course, has its nuances. So working with a partner that can really help you sort through this wild, wild west is, I think, really important. This is a space that if we weren't experts in it, now knowing what we know, I would definitely not encourage us to walk into the space and try it on our own.
Well, Ange, you mentioned Annika Streaming. So Catherine, to bring us home here, can you tell us just a little bit about Annika Streaming, which is our own CTV solution?
Yeah, absolutely. So Angela alluded to some of it. Of course, we see the challenges that are getting in the way of streaming success for performance marketers, just like the rest of you do. All of the things we've been talking about today, the high costs, the unnecessary fees, the targeting, the measurement challenges. And we had the tech built already for linear to address that and said, hey, let's go replicate this in streaming, right? We have clients and prospects that are wanting to do it. We knew there was a way for performance marketers to get in and get more value and to disrupt the cost structures that there are in the space. And we were on a mission to deliver it. We wanted to create a marketplace for those performance brands that deliver the same value as our linear platform does. So we built and launched Annika Streaming this fall. She debuted, and it is the first opportunistic rate marketplace in streaming television. We're really excited and proud of it. It's based on proprietary technology that we developed for television. And simply put, we built Annika to buy streaming better and to solve the challenges that are facing brands today in streaming. We take every opportunity we can to eliminate the unnecessary costs, cutting out the middlemen and the waste, eliminating that waste that we see in the supply chain. We give our clients access to rates that are more efficient than a traditional DSP. And it's a solution that serves both publishers and advertisers. We're super excited about the momentum that we saw with the Annika Streaming debut in 2023 and are looking forward to a year of growth ahead. Really excited about it.
Thanks, Catherine. So go to marketingarchitects.com/streaming and help attribute a sale to the podcast, people. That would be amazing. I think that's a great place to wrap things up. We could talk about TV all day, but we got to get going to some meetings. And thank you so much, Catherine, for joining us today. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Klapaki for producing the show and Taylor De Los Reyes for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find our show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. Now go forth and build great marketing.
What's the word I'm looking for?
Rutabaga.